So we're actually going to start off on the iPhone side of things. So showing you how to set one of these things up. We're just going to hit phone.
Turn Bluetooth on from your device in order to search.
Okay.
On your device, select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
We're looking for Kia. We can change that name. I'll show you how it's done later. But you can see there, we've got the passcode on this right. Okay, do we want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? I'm going to hit don't allow for now, but you can see there we've got that. We've got my dial pad, we've got my phone name, we've got what's currently going on with our battery as well as... Yeah, so the reason why I said that is because I said no.
To try again?
No. So we do have the flexibility. If we want to, we can. Let's say if you accidentally hit no, but you wanted to download your contacts, you could delete your phone, add it again, hit yes in order to be able to add it. So it's really straightforward. And same idea, we can go split screen if we wanted to based off of our phone screen there. But I did mention, so we've got our current signal strength and our battery there on top of that. So really straightforward. If we go back to setup now, we've got a few other options. So we've got all of our navigation settings, but the big one is device connections. So device connections, we've got the iPhone that I just set up. If you wanted to, you could have it so that it's strictly for music, or you can have it for your phone. So all you do is select one or the other. So we can deselect that, and all of a sudden the phone is just going to be used for music instead. We can add in more devices, or we can delete that way if we want. Bluetooth prompts, do we want to play prompts, or do we want to mute them as they come through? We've got our Bluetooth system info, and this is where we go to update our car name. So we can change it out if we don't want it to be Kia. We can add in our passcode to change it from the very difficult 0000. So definitely recommend changing that to something more challenging. Projection settings are going to be for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. I'm curious if they fixed the Android Auto bug, because even if we don't have split screen selected, Android Auto always defaulted to split screen. I'm going to come back after I set up CarPlay to show you what this looks like. But that's how you set up a phone, an iPhone specifically inside of the Forte. But let's actually go through and I'm going to show you how you can set up Apple CarPlay inside of this thing. So all we're going to do, take our USB cable, and there are about a few different USB ports down below. We're just going to plug it into the middle one. Opposite end of the cable, we're just plugging ourselves in. And so as you can see there, reading USB. Do we want to use CarPlay? Do we want to allow CarPlay while the phone is locked? Yes. So a few seconds in and we are connected. Boom, and look at that, all across this beautiful media screen. Looks really, really sharp. We've got our home screen there. We've got whatever podcast we're listening to. We can search the phone. We can jump into whatever map application was open last. So if we want to, we can jump into Apple Maps, and that brings our default there to Apple Maps instead. So if we press home, we can scroll across, go into Waze, go into Google Maps, press home there, and it's going to default into our Google Maps instead. So you've got a few different options that are available. I did mention we can do a long press and hold on the steering wheel if we wanted to activate our Siri Assistant as well, which is fantastic, or we can just do a press and hold on our phone, which also launches it up through the media screen. Scrolling across, we've got our phone, music, maps, but as you saw there, we've got Apple Maps, we've got Google Maps, and we've got Waze that can all be used through Apple CarPlay, which is amazing. Live One is a radio app. We've got, audiobooks, we've got podcasts, and so many other things. But these things are all really straightforward to go through, listen to. We can look at your library back home. We can look at our calendar and things like that. So there are a ton of options that are available. Looking at CarPlay, one cool thing is that we can jump into our general settings. If we go to CarPlay, we can then select the vehicle. We can disallow CarPlay. So if we want to, we can turn it off. If you've connected your phone and you're noticing that CarPlay is not working, check there to see if it's actively connected. If it is, delete the phone from the car, from the vehicle, and then add it again. So we just forget, we add our phone back in, and it should automatically connect. But we can customize. So on the home screen, let's say if you love listening to podcasts and you are a fan of Waze, press and hold, drag it to the top, and as you saw there, just hot dynamic presses, and it updates it for us, which is amazing. If you accidentally delete something, it shows up at the bottom of the screen here, but it removes it from Apple CarPlay. If you've done too much, you just reset, brings it right back to the factory default layout instead. So really, really straightforward. I did promise you one thing, so if you go back to setup, device connections, phone projection, we can't do anything until we disconnect, but phone projection, CarPlay, use split screen, and we're gonna go home. plug back in, and watch this. We're going to go into CarPlay, and then as you can see here, we do have our split screen. We can go up and down now between subscreens if we want to. Now, we could adjust this way if we want to, so AM, FM, Sirius, XM, etc. We could also adjust this way. So it looks like that little bug is fixed where it didn't actually let you launch into any of these options, but it is interesting because we need to, as you can see there, have an active source in one of our presets. But once we've done that, we can then rotate this way in order to be able to listen to the radio while we're also connected to CarPlay. So we've got Google Maps while we've got CarPlay going. We've got CarPlay going with Google Maps while we've also got our radio playing. So that's how you get that done. So very, very straightforward to do. But I mean, look at that. Really nice. If we wanted to get that full screen back, we just go back into Setup, Device Connections, Unplug, CarPlay, full screen instead, and you're set to go. But I mean, you saw it there. Really straightforward to be able to add a phone to this vehicle. Okay, next up, setting up an Android is the exact same process. So if you weren't on this screen, all we have to do is just get back into Device Connections again. So we just go Setup, Device Connections here. We can add in a new phone or delete that other one. I'm going to keep this one connected to show you something neat.
Bluetooth on from your device in order to search.
So,
on your device, select the
Kia's there. Do we want to pair up? Pins match. There we go. So we are now connected there, but as you can see, we've got so we've just connected this device, but at the same time, it's showing the iPhone gets connection priority. So what we're going to do, just press, drag it, and then if we want to, we could connect up to this one instead. It's disconnecting, and it's connecting now to this phone in order to be able to make phone calls. But as you can see, we still have the iPhone that has that priority connection in order to be able to listen to music. So this is really cool because you can have...
contacts download is...
Okay, so this is cool because we've got one phone where we're connected, let's say, for our phone, and then we can disable this if we want to. So we've got one phone for audio, one phone for the phone instead in order to make calls. So it's really cool that we've got that available as an option. If we wanted to delete a device, we just select, delete, yes. I mean, 3 seconds there and it's deleted. So it's really straightforward. But I mean, if we want to, we can just go back home, jump back into our phone, keypad, messages, and things like that. So very straightforward. And then very similar to the iPhone side of things, we also have the flexibility of setting up Android Auto. In this screen, it is a wired connection. So we take our USB cable, plug it in down below. Opposite end of the cable, we're just plugging ourselves in. And I'm gonna have to unlock. So unlock to continue. Okay, next. All right, it's just taking its sweet time connecting. There we go. Allow access to messages, etc. So there we go. And 3, 2, 1, we are fully connected. Now, I don't know if you remember, but I did have full screen Android Auto enabled, but it's still doing a split screen. So it looks like we still don't have the full screen map capabilities in Android Auto as of right now. It is useful because we are using, I mean, we've got our podcast kind of split this way, but I really wish we could utilize the whole screen in order to stretch the maps across. So it's like, fingers crossed, but I mean, as of right now, this is as good as the split screen's gonna get, unfortunately. But as you can see there, we've got Google Maps, we've got this as part of what's going on with our podcast there. We can press the Google Maps side of things if we want to, look at traffic, satellite, if we want to look at different route options and things like that as well. So we've got that as an option. We can X out, and then we've got a series of different buttons along the side here. So we could press this if we want to activate our Google Assistant. We can also press and hold on the steering wheel, so long press to activate that way. We've got any available notifications. We've got what's currently going on for media suggestions. We could also listen to our podcast this way, and then it just splits screens to jump Google Maps over to the other side. Or we could push this button along the very top left to get back to the main screen. Now, one thing, this phone has Waze installed, and it looks like we don't have Waze available as an option here, unfortunately. So I'm like, fingers crossed, hopefully that also gets fixed here, but we've at least got Google Maps. And then depending on the version of the vehicle you're in, we also do have the flexibility of looking at factory navigation instead. So, I mean, we've got quite a few different options available there. But I mean, it is nice. We can easily adjust what's going on with our podcast, look at settings, go to our maps. We can easily make phone calls and things like that through that screen. So whether you decide to use Android Auto, Apple CarPlay or not, matter of preference. I personally love using Google Maps and Waze, so that would typically be my go-to anyways. But that's how we set up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay inside the vehicle. All right, so we've got our phone projection, but if we go into our setup, device connections, phone projection, I did tell you, so it did have full screen enabled, but for whatever reason, it's just not letting us go true full screen. So we're very close to it. Unfortunately, not there as of yet, but I mean, as you saw there, it's easy enough to connect, setting up our phones and things like that. We can go back home. We can look at our phone projection, which that's the Android Auto Apple CarPlay. It's grayed out because there's nothing connected. We can jump into our setup, device connections, delete that, delete, yes. And 3, 2, 1, we're deleted. Well, folks, that's how you set up Android Auto and Apple CarPlay inside of the Kia Forte. Very straightforward, right? Now, slight difference from wireless versus wired. Like, yeah, it would be nice if we were fully wireless inside of all trim levels, but inserting a USB cable, not the end of the world. I'm just like, oh, fingers crossed they go fully wireless soon. But if you have any questions, ran into any problems, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. More than willing to talk you through any issues that you might be having. But if you enjoyed this video, thumbs up, share it with your social networks, and until I see you next time, take care.